When we come back, a museum all about creation opens today, but some people don't like it. They say it's junk science. We're going to hear both sides. That's next. In the back of the book segment tonight, the $27 million Creation Museum opens today in Kentucky. The museum is designed to convince visitors that the biblical story of life on Earth is scientifically verifiable. But some people think it does more harm than good. Joining us now from Cincinnati, Ken Ham, the president and CEO of Answers in Genesis. That's the group that built the museum. And in New York, Dr. Lawrence Krauss, a professor at Case Western Reserve University and an advisory board member of the group, campaigned to defend the Constitution, which opposes the museum. All right, Mr. Ham, let's start with you. I understand you had a big turnout today. What are you trying to accomplish with this museum?
Well, John, we certainly did have a big turnout. We had over 4,000 people there. And what we're trying to accomplish is this. You know, through this nation, whole generations of young people are being taught in the public schools there's no God, life evolved by natural processes, they're really just animals in the fight for survival, and that very much determines their morality, how they view themselves, their purpose and meaning in life, and so on. And what we wanted to do was to give them information that's been censored from the culture, information that helps them understand that mainstream science, I mean, we have PhD scientists that work at our ministry who receive their PhDs from secular universities. We work with many other PhD scientists to show them that we can use the science of genetics, biology, geology, astronomy, anthropology to confirm the Bible's history. And if the Bible's history is true, then Christian morality based in that history is true. If there's a God who owns you, then he sets the rules. We have a basis for good, for bad, for right, for wrong.
All right, Mr. Ham. Doctor, tell us, what's your objection? Here's a guy trying his best to bring some science into this. Where do you object?
Well, he's not bringing science into it. That's the problem. It's the semblance of science, but it really isn't science. In fact, the way science works is we kind of ask questions about the universe, and nature gives us the answers. We don't know the answers in advance. That's a key part of science. And what this museum does is it'll confuse kids about what's science and what isn't science. And Mr. Ham already said it too. It also gives a really bad message that somehow science is anti-religion, that just trying to understand the world, we're encouraging kids to be atheists, and that's nonsense. And it's unfortunate for kids, and it's also unfortunate for science, especially in this country where right now we do a really bad job of teaching science. And if we want to be competitive in the 21st century, we better do a better job.
Doctor, what would you say about the argument that God created the spark that started life in the universe? And secondly, at some point, God created the conscience, the soul, created the human being, you know, put the special stuff into the human being that's sort of a reflection of God. Would you accept that in concert with evolution?
Well, in principle, yes. I mean, the point is those are not scientific questions. And science just deals with things you can falsify and things you can measure.
Yeah, I understand
and it makes predictions.
Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that?
I would agree that it's certainly plausible, and science doesn't disprove the fact that there potentially is purpose to the universe. But whether or not I believe it or whether or not Mr. Ham believes it, evolution happened, and the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. It isn't 6,000 years old.
Mr. Ham, what about the argument here that evolution is consistent with the fact that God created? God sparked life early on. God then made man special, different from animals. Why is it not acceptable that evolution and creationism can be compatible?
Well, there are many in the church that would say that evolution and creation are compatible, but evolution and a literal genesis are not compatible. The literal genesis,
but maybe
which is
literal genesis is not the deal here. I mean, if you put a man standing next to a dinosaur, I mean, why can't we say that it both works? That God made a great thing happen, but at the same time, you know, evolution is not a bad thing.
Well, it's not the God of the Bible who made it happen, because he doesn't say that. If you read the Bible, for instance, Jesus in the New Testament...
I do read the Bible.
Quotes from Genesis.
I think it's worth jumping in. There are literally millions of people who are people of faith who understand that science tells us how old the world is, and they don't have to feel like they're atheists because they don't buy this nonsense about a 6,000-year-old universe.
Doctor, there are a heck of a lot of scientists that say that, you know, they discount God, and that's the problem.
Well,
I frankly think reasonable people like you guys
I would like to answer some of this if I could.
We're out of time, guys. I think reasonable guys like you can get together and agree there's a certain mystery in life, a certain mystery in life.
Is wonderful.
No one has the answer. But I think the museum is a very interesting thing, Mr. Ham, and I bet you're going to get a lot of visitors. Thank you both for being with us.